You're listening to The Marc Cox Show. Follow the show on Facebook. Facebook.com/The Marc Cox Show.
The Democrats pretended it either wasn't a problem or that it should be ignored. It's rather unseemly.
Yeah, so I thought Krauthammer made a pretty good point there. He's like, wow. They're criticizing Trump for possibly telling the Russians some little tidbit of information that we didn't want them to know about a potential threat to their aircraft for some reason. And they're still willing to ignore Hillary spilling the beans for a number of years in such a manner that she carried her BlackBerry and her various 10 different devices all over the world and had unsecured email on it the entire time. Right? I mean, that is...
To Secretary Clinton's personal email account. It is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
Thank you. Of course it's possible. I mean, we got hacks all over the world going on right now. So you just can't have it both ways. I mean, that would be my point about it.
She's a professional. So it's okay to be a professional bungler,
I see.
But if you're an amateur and you've never run for office before, then you're going to be held to extra scrutiny when you do stuff.
You know, we also talked about, I want to be hypocritical about it, we talked about the fact that as Secretary of State or as President of the United States, anything that comes out of your mouth is potentially classified information. It is incumbent upon you in that position to know what you write or say or email could potentially be classified information. Donald Trump bears that responsibility. Hillary Clinton bore that responsibility. She has not been held accountable for it at all, unless you want to count the fact that we're now celebrating 130 days that she hasn't been president. But beyond that, criminally, she wasn't held responsible for that at all. And the media acted like it was all blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Not even a civil fine. You know, I could see, okay, the politics of putting her in jail or indicting her is just too much. But not even it should be some type of civil fine, $100,000 or $500,000 for misuse of government property or something. Can you
imagine after the snowflake meltdown that we've seen in this country? Could you imagine what the movement would become if Hillary Clinton got tried, convicted, and sent to prison in Orange is the New Black, would be a reality show with Hillary Clinton starring in it. She would be the next Mandela. Yeah. And I mean that in the best terms. There would be free Hillary signs all over the world on social media. People would have permanent encampments outside of her prison demanding that she be released.
And then the left would foster the belief around the world that people don't know how our system operates, that Donald Trump somehow had her arrested and is jailing his political enemies.
Of course.
So, it would just be
They're crazy. Did you see what they did to Ann Wagner this weekend? Did you hear Jamie's show yesterday?
I heard that.
That was kind of, the Allman show kind of, I wouldn't say they broke the story, but they reported on it yesterday, and I used a little bit of the interview from Ann in one of the phone calls that she's been receiving in her office. These lunatics went to her house and drew the outlines of dead bodies in her driveway with chalk and followed her to her church and protested her because of the American Health Care Act.
And see, these people obviously haven't done a lot of research on the Congresswoman or don't know much about her to know that she's a strong Second Amendment advocate and her son is a West Point graduate. So I don't know if that's the wisest.
They don't respect either of those things anyway, right? They want a revolution. Guns. They want a revolution, but they forget the fact that the other side's the one that's armed. Yeah. That's a little bit of a problem. Yeah, no kidding. Let me get to Matt here real quick, and I got another subject I want to talk to Chris about. Matt, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think we all need to sit back, take a deep breath, and just realize that this situation is just one more example of the Democrats losing their minds since losing the election. And I just think it's humorous because none of this is relevant. None of it ever sticks. And Trump continues to run circles around them, advancing his agenda. and they're just like the stray dog chasing the car with this Russian thing every day, and it's never going to work. So I just think it's comical watching them lose their minds every single day.
Every day, it's a new drop and flop over something, and last week it was the tapes. Thank you, Matt. Last week it was the tapes, the possibility of taping. My assumption would be if I got a hold of a phone line here and got it open and we dialed the White House, that my phone call to the White House would be recorded. Is that not true?
Probably.
So if Donald Trump, because we remember the first leak that he had is when he was talking to the Australian Prime Minister, and the conversation reportedly got testy, and that got leaked by somebody who was monitoring that phone call, or they saw a transcript of it. So you have to assume that either phone calls in and out of the White House are taped, or they're monitored and transcribed by somebody. Why is everybody so shocked that there might be a recording of a conversation between Jim Comey and the President of the United States?
Because I think it gives, just like you said, you kind of assume automatically when you call the White House that you're being taped. I think with this situation, it kind of brings up images of Richard Nixon where people are being taped and they don't know that they're being taped. That's not a phone call. I mean, Comey and Trump had dinner. So either the tape recording device is hidden in a table or it's in a room, or, I think that's where people draw the distinction.
Here's where I have a problem with the Nixon comparison.
I don't agree with it, but it brings up that
I
symbolism.
know it does, but in Nixon's case, there was wrongdoing, and they went back and erased the tape to cover it up, and that's what got. I mean, they knew about the break-in. John Dean was involved in it. He tried to fire the prosecutor when he knew he was in a corner. The cover-up is what caused the problem there. If Donald Trump is acknowledging that there are tapes, he's probably taping things to protect himself, I'm guessing. And my assumption would be that a lot of those conversations are taped. I heard some of the talking heads yesterday claiming, well, wouldn't this have a chilling effect on people being willing to be honest with the president? Well, it shouldn't. Yeah. They're telling the truth.
But I think it goes back to the fundamental question, whether taping is right or wrong, or what do you think of it? I think fundamentally it goes back to, why would you even say something like that? I hope that there are no tapes. Why would you even say something like that to open up this can of worms where you're basically backing yourself into a corner? Because if you are taped, then the Senate's going to ask for a subpoena and get those tapes. If there are no tapes, then you're caught bluffing and lying. Why would you paint yourself into a corner like that?
He said you better hope there are no tapes. Maybe he was just making a joke.
Well, it didn't sound like a joke.
Well, but to me, it may not sound like a joke, but it didn't sound like a threat, which is the way the media kind of played it. I'm going to run out of time here.
Uh-oh.
You and I talk about all the time because MoveOnUp.org has been an organization of conservative African Americans, and how you're ostracized by left-leaning African Americans at times in organizations like the NAACP and the Black Congressional Black Caucus and things like that. The lady that won Miss USA happened to be from the District of Columbia, very attractive African-American lady who gets up and they ask her a question about health care, and she tells the truth, that health care is a privilege, not a right. And the liberals' minds exploded. The tops of their heads blew off. How dare she say this? She broke ranks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sad.
And I don't think that she just got criticism from the African American community for that, which I'm sure she did.
No, not just the African American community.
The people that run this pageant, are worried about the PR, and this is $1 million business per se. When you get at a certain level in society, your opinions, you have to watch what you say. You can't have your own. What's
the message there? If you're on our stage, you better only give us politically correct answers. I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. Chris, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
I'm
speechless.
Always great to get your thoughts on that, even if they are wrong sometimes. I'm just teasing.
Every now and then.
I'm just teasing.